Hello, everyone, and welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's the 16th of January, 2026. It's Friday. My name is CareyHolzman, and welcome in. We're going to review a new mini PC from the folks over at KAMRUI, and this one is a bit interesting in how they're marketing it. And I want to talk to you a little bit about marketing and what I watch for. So first of all, hello to everyone joining us. A shout out to our friend Buster, who tells us the temperature in Edinburgh, Scotland right now is 35 degrees Fahrenheit or 3.3 degrees Celsius. That sounds a little bit chilly. And thank you for the Amazon gift card as well as keeping us updated, Buster. Glad to hear things are going well and appreciate that you keep us informed on that. And always good to see you, my friend. And thank you and a hello to all of our members, the Friends in Green joining us that are the reason this channel still exists. And we can't thank them enough for their continued support and friendship here of the channel. Now, I will go through and welcome everybody in individually in just a minute. But I want to get something off my chest, which is that when I go looking for reviews, this struck me last night when I was looking to see if anybody has done this brand new KAMRUI Hyper H2 mini PC before me or were the first. And all I could find were AI generated videos where basically there are still frame shots with electronic voiceover.
You have an email.
Oh, and I have an email. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I will get to that here in just a minute. So the video after video on the, and you're welcome to look right now. If you look here on YouTube and search for KAMRUI Hyper H2 review, you will see a bunch of videos that are relatively short. There is no actual video. It's videos of pictures. You know, sometimes people complain when they watch a live video that aired earlier. This isn't live. Well, how come nobody does that when somebody's filming still pictures? So it's not really a film, is it? You're just showing you photographs. Well, every video I've seen on the KAMRUI from all different content creators I've never heard of before, not only doesn't have anybody's name on it, not only does it not show anybody's face, it doesn't even show the product outside of the marketing photos off the website, and then basically takes the marketing materials, throws it into AI, and has it read it aloud in a robotic, mispronounced voice. So, you know, I find it really offensive. So I said, okay, I guess we'll be the first. But then there are other people that do mini PC reviews that will not tell you their real name. Their channel is under a fake name, a made-up name, and they never show their faces. But they want you to trust them. I mean, seriously, you won't tell me who you are. You won't even show me what you look like, but I'm supposed to value your opinion? I mean, look, they have every right, you know, to do that. They're not breaking any laws or anything, but that's the opposite of trust. Trust needs to go both ways. If you want me to trust you and care about or value your opinion, I need the same back. And if you're going to hide from me and you're going to not make it clear who you are and stand behind what you say by being held accountable, well, it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch your content, but it means there's something about that YouTube channel that's being hidden. And that in and of itself, you know, look, if it's entertainment, that's fine. But if the whole point of this is to trust me, that my review is honest and my review is sincere and earnest, then why are you hiding? So I will, when I watch those videos, whether it's a good review or a negative review, I may not notice right away that there is nobody in it, or maybe you just see a pair of hands. All right. But regardless of how many subscribers these channels might have, it's not something that I find ethical. I would not do that. If it was a puppet show, show you my hands, that's what I would expect to see. And I wouldn't expect the puppets to have real names. So for me, watching these kind of videos is like watching a puppet show. Do you want to take trustworthy advice from a puppet? That's what I asked myself. So there are other mini PC reviewers who do pretty much the same thing I do, where this is my name, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I look like, this is how I feel about this computer. And again, when it comes to reviews of expensive products, or any product really, because what's expensive to one person may not be expensive to another one, but we're just going to say they're all costing you some kind of money, and you're going to lean your audience towards whether or not they should buy it, but you won't tell them who you are or show them your face. Is there any product you would buy in such a scenario? So it doesn't mean what they're saying is inaccurate or that I disagree with their opinions of the product. But at the same time, I am very, very curious about what they're hiding, because if they're hiding their name and they're hiding their face, in their review, what else are they hiding? It's clearly part of their personality that they think there's nothing wrong with it. So then that also means, logically, it would be part of their personality that they're not disclosing everything in their review because they feel like they shouldn't have to. And they won't tell you what it is. And they may even deny that they're doing it, but we don't even know who they are. So how can you believe anything they say? So for that reason, I wanted to point out to you today, we're looking at a mini PC that, so far as I can tell, there is no actual review of this unit. We'll be the first one to do an authentic and real review. And one of the things that I'm a little puzzled by is KAMRUI's choice to keep using the same model number over and over again, even though the computers are all different. So I want to give you a heads up that if you're interested in this model, be very cautious and pay close attention to which one you're getting. All right, so what is it? This is called a KAMRUI H2. And if we look over at the KAMRUI, well, let's just go to Amazon. All right, let's go to Amazon and we'll take a look at what the specs are. So here's the Amazon page, KAMRUI H2. Now I want you to notice it's an Intel Core i7-13620. I don't know why Intel is spelled like that. Really, if there was going to be a dash in Intel, well, basically the INT stands for integrated, so that's where the end of the first word is. And then electronics is the second word, so the dash should be on the other side of the T. I don't know, there shouldn't even be a dash in it at all, but okay, whatever. So what we've got here is this model, the 13620H. It's a 1280p, or sorry, it beats a 1280p in performance. It's got 32 gigs of RAM built into it. I want you to keep that in mind when you're looking at the price, because if you just price out 32 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte Gen 4 solid state drive, those two items alone, never mind the USB 4, the Wi-Fi 6, right? All that stuff is nickels and dimes compared to the 32 gig of RAM and 1 terabyte. That's going to make up about 2/3 of that price if you try and buy that separately. So you're looking at about $300 worth of RAM and storage. And that leaves the rest of the computer for around 210 bucks. Now it says it's a limited time deal. Okay, so we know that. But why am I showing you this page first? Well, if you go up here and you search, let's just say we search KAMRUI H2, I want you to see everything that shows up here. You'd say, Carey, this one's $10 cheaper. I go, yeah, but look, it's an 11900. It's a Core i9 11900. Okay, well, what about this one here? Okay, that's the right one. That's the i7, not the i9. We go down here, we're back to the 11900. You say, well, what if we just went to KAMRUI's website and ordered it there? Would that be clearer? You go over to KAMRUI's official site, and this particular configuration is not available, which I don't understand why. But this one is yet a third model featuring the i5-14450HX and significantly less money, about $50 less, also with 32 gigs and 1 terabyte. That's actually the better deal. If you ask me, you're getting a whole generation newer and the same amount of RAM and storage. And you're going to pay less for it? Yes, please. But they didn't send us this for review. They all look exactly alike. If you look at the screen, look at the face in the rear of and the color, just the layout, it looks like they're reusing the same case over and over again. That's why it's very important that they either significantly change the model names. They should have an H3, an H4, an H5, an H6, an H7, an H8. There's no reason they need to keep using H2 or Hyper H2. This is making it very confusing for customers that don't know how to pay attention to the details. Think perhaps they're buying one thing when in fact they're buying something else entirely. So I want you to just keep that in mind when you're shopping. There's the same one here. There's the i5-14450. They've got it listed here a little bit more money than KAMRUI Direct. That's typical because, I mean, let's face it, Amazon's making a commission. Somebody's got to pay for it. So usually items would be a little bit more money from Amazon than from a manufacturer that sells direct. But you do get that Amazon, you know, if it's a manufacturer that you're a little bit concerned about, you get that peace of mind from Amazon with regards to the safety and security of your purchase and the ease of returns if needed. When you deal with individual manufacturers, sometimes the shipping is going to be much more delayed. The return policy may be less than clear. I can't speak for KAMRUI, but I'm just giving you an example of things to watch for. And with all that in mind, it makes sense if you're going to spend $30 more at Amazon to get all of that additional peace of mind. Or if you're somebody that's like, I'm sure it's fine, or you've bought for them before, or you know somebody that recommends it, obviously it's fine to order from the manufacturer too in those cases. And you'll always have protection with any sort of credit payment that you would use. So there's always that to fall back on. Okay, so let me jump back over to the chat here real quick. We say hello, everybody, and check my phone real quick. Mara says we got another email here that came in, so let me just check on that. And then we'll get to our unboxing and evaluation. Oh, our friend Mark Gaines with an Amazon gift card. Says, hope you enjoy this gift card in lieu of a super chat. Thank you, Mark, joining us from Northern Ireland. Thank you very much. And hello, everybody joining us today. Hope you're having a great Friday. We are halfway through the month already, the first month of the new year. Wow, time is moving. Isaiah says hello. There's Jonathan Fells, Sean Skinner, Eddie Casanova, Katrina H. all saying hello in the chat. There's Mark Gaines as well as 3D Everything. Luke Greenia and Xander Vanderhoven say hello, along with Jim Kenny. David Graham says hello, along with Scott. James Disher. Showman 2000. Gary Tatum. John Rogers, Josh Kinder. Alan with a Y says hello. Andy W6AD joins us. David Herzog joining us here in the chat. This is a live chat room on a live video, and a big part of my video's appeal that makes me different from most other content creators is I want to interact with you. I don't want to just talk at you. I want you to be able to talk back in a kind and thoughtful way that we can engage in meaningful conversation. And it's open to the entire public. Just pop into the chat, say hello. All you got to do is be nice. I laugh when I say it because you shouldn't have to tell people that, but these are the times we live in. So if you could be nice, if you are nice, please join us. We'd love to have you. Let's see. Raj joins us and says hello. Speaking of other nice people, we've got Edward Bass joining us saying hello. And I see Buster in there along with Ron Barnish. Dazzle555. Frank Jimmy joins us and says hello. Bike Man says hello. There's Dustin Fuller. Bajan Guy. Shamim Kashviris joining all the way from Sweden says hello. There's Mike Gamer saying hello. Thomas MacT. I think I got everybody. I hope I didn't miss anybody there. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at VIP-URCDKEys. This is where I go to get my Windows and Office licenses. You know, Microsoft turned off phone activation. If you try and call the number on the screen for phone activation, you'll get a message saying you can't do this anymore and you need to activate through your Microsoft account. But what if I don't have a Microsoft account? Not our problem. What if I don't have internet? Not our problem. That is Microsoft's attitude right now. So if you want to be able to activate over the internet, you're going to need to use a legitimate product. A lot of the sketchy stuff that was slipping through or required you to make a phone call, that's sketchy. That's all I got to tell you. That is sketchy. So if you want to be able to buy a legitimate, real license key that actually activates online without the Microsoft account necessary, then you want to purchase from a legitimate key seller. Now, there's plenty of legitimate key sellers out there, but the problem is they're well over $100, depending on the product. If it's Windows or Office, it's multiple hundreds of dollars. Look at the MSRP at the Microsoft Store if you don't believe me. It's very expensive. So I want to be able to save money because I need to buy multiple copies of Windows and Office for my customers. And I found this website. I went through a lot of websites, guys. And I found this website. They are owned by a parent company that's related to the other websites we've used in the past. So it's the same company. And the process is very easy. You go to their website, which, by the way, we have links for the Windows and Office products in the video notes below this video, the video description. And click on the link for the product you want, or if it's not, just when you go to the website, search for the product you want. And when you're checking out and you say, wow, that's a really good price for a Windows 10 or a Windows 11 product key, just know that if you enter the coupon code CAREY at checkout, that good price gets even better. But if you feel like, no, that's a good enough price, I'm not going to use the coupon code, I don't need to save any more money, you don't have to use the coupon code. It's not a commission-based code. So I'm just trying to save you some money and prevent you from getting burned by a scammy reseller. And these folks are the real deal. And they also accept PayPal. So they just strike on all the cylinders for my requirements, as well as giving you up to 6 months of free support if you have any problems. Now, software doesn't generally have free support indefinitely, and most customers, or sorry, most resellers don't offer any support at all. It's just they take your money, here's your key, good luck, bye. But hey, think of the money you saved. It cracks me up what people will do to drive themselves crazy to save a few dollars. So if you want to go that route, I'm not telling you not to. I'm not doing that to my customers, and I probably wouldn't have many customers left if I did. So I buy all my products from reputable resellers at reasonable prices so that I can maintain competitiveness in the marketplace with my competitors, quite frankly, that my pricing isn't outrageous. And then I've got to turn around and tell a customer that my pricing is more because I'm not using black market products or, a questionable source of where I'm getting my goods. I have a full warranty I stand behind, and I have to if I want to stay in business. You can only burn somebody once. So you're going to have to burn a lot of people, and I honestly don't want to work that hard. I'd rather just sell one person a lot of things over time than sell them something, rip them off, move to the next person, rip them off, move to the next person, rip them off, and then change my name or location and start all over again. It's about 50-50 when it comes to making a purchase from an unknown website, an unfamiliar website here online, that you're dealing with something real or not. So if you can stick with something that you know is authentic and genuine, has been around for years, or that a friend, somebody you know, has referred it to you, say, oh, I had this experience. Not I heard about somebody who had an experience, but somebody you actually know had an individual experience that they said was good for them and they're recommending it to you. Great. What people say online doesn't matter. What people say about products or opinions, again, we're back to anonymous people with no faces that hold no accountability. For all you know, it's the competitor dissing their competition. It may not even be real. Also, the whole gossip thing drives me crazy. Well, I read on Reddit. Yeah, you know, so what? I read on Reddit I'm 10 feet tall and 4,000 pounds. I've read on Reddit I'm a millionaire, but none of that has made me 10 feet tall, 4,000 pounds, or a millionaire. It's just childish high school talk. Please don't participate in it. And if you do it outside of the channel, because I don't want to see that immature nonsense. But if, on the other hand, you have a real experience or somebody you personally know in real life has had an experience that you want to share with us, we love to hear about real experiences from people we know are real people. We don't want you to tell us about what you read online. That's all just there for the clicks. At the end of the day, the only reason anybody posts anything online, including me, is for the clicks. Why? Because that equates to money. I'm not a charity. I wouldn't mind doing this for free as a charity if that were an option for me, but it isn't. So that's why we are viewer supported here, so that I can continue to do this without becoming a corporate puppet, reading scripts for things that I don't truly believe, and basically violating your trust by allowing a manufacturer to let me sell you to them so that I can tell you how great a product is that I don't actually use in real life. Or, you know, I was watching on YouTube, Gordon Ramsay was promoting I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. Does that seem odd to you that Gordon Ramsay would be just touting how great I Can't Believe It's Not Butter is? It's Gordon Ramsay, you know, the best of the best when it comes to food quality. When have you ever seen I Can't Believe It's Not Butter in the hands of Gordon Ramsay? And the video says it's promoted or sponsored by I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. So for that episode on YouTube, or for that series on YouTube that I Can't Believe It's Not Butter is sponsoring, he's there uniquely telling you how great it is. But when you watch him do other things, you never see that product in Hell's Kitchen, for example. All right, I'm just pointing out that even famous celebrities will sell out their audiences and sell out their trust to earn a few dollars. And they might say, you know, that's the way the business works, man. He's not a charity either. So he needs to get paid, and if he's going to promote this butter, or Can't Believe It's Not Butter, that's his business. I just want you to be aware of it when you see it, and then evaluate it in your own particular values. I personally lost a little respect for Gordon Ramsay. Me personally. I just thought, now it's clear he can be bought, and it doesn't appear to be very much money. Everybody could be bought if the check's big enough. Ask Harrison Ford why he ever did a Star Wars movie, a follow-up Star Wars movie. After his contract was up, he had no interest. He said it over and over, no interest in it. And then they said, when he was coming back, they said, didn't you say for years you had no interest in it? Yeah. And this was like Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, I don't know. Stephen Colbert, one of these talk shows. They said, well, if you've been saying for years you weren't going to do it, what changed your mind? He goes, they wrote me a bigger check. So at least he's honest. That I respect. That I very much respect. All right, let's see. Bikeman says, he spent $106 to pay for Windows. What did he do? Windows 11 upgrade. When he could have bought 5 or 6 keys that would have done the same job as legitimately and saved him a ton of money. So he's going to remember that for next time. I hope so. I mean, there's nothing wrong with buying your keys from the Microsoft store. I mean, I'm not telling you not to. I just can't do it and be competitive in my pricing, and then the customers want to know why I'm so much more expensive than my competitors. And I've got to say, well, it's because I use genuine product keys. Well, so do they. So how come? And then I would say, well, I don't know. Well, now I do know, and I'm just simply sharing that information with you, that most manufacturers won't share their source. That's just not good for business. All right. Scrolling around here, Dennis joins us and says hello. Nicholas Barlow and Diamond X12 say hello. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Newsfan said they were unable to buy a Windows 11 key off the website with a prepaid Visa. Many prepaid cards are, they won't cover what could potentially be fees for foreign transactions that banks charge. So it's not your fault, it's not their fault. There can be an exchange rate fee if you're paying one currency to another currency. You used your debit card, which, you know, for security reasons, I generally don't use my debit card ever. But they do use PayPal. So what you could have done, and what I would have recommended you do, is just set up a free PayPal account. And you can associate that with your debit card or with your checking account. And that way, you don't have to worry about any of the fees, and you've got the security that you don't have with just the debit card by paying through PayPal. That's why it's critical that I make sure that they will accept PayPal as a payment, because we have viewers all over the world. And when you're making purchases there from one country to another, there are exchange rate fees. And again, that's all on the banks. So that's probably why a prepaid card would not work for that. Just so you know. Simon X12 says, does the KAMRUI series have a version with the NVIDIA GPU or AMD GPU? Well, KAMRUI is like a spin-off of Ace Magic, or the other way around, I'm not sure. And they have a variety of PCs between the two of them that are both Intel and AMD, from budget to mid-range and high-end. So the answer to your question is yes. If you go to Amazon and just type in the word KAMRUI, you can see a variety of mini PCs to choose from. I was specifically searching for the H2. If you're not seeing enough variety there, then do a search for Ace Magic and take a look at their mini PCs, because as I mentioned, depending on what your budget is, they pretty much make a PC for each, you know, say sub $300, sub $600, sub $900. I think they even have one that's around $1,100 or $1,200, the Tank. So they run the gamut. In fact, if you want, you can even search my YouTube channel here if you want to see some of the previous KAMRUI and Ace Magic PCs, or search YouTube just to see what other reviewers have to say for other products that may no longer be offered or that we never reviewed here. So a lot of options out there. Sylvester Sims says hello. Welcome in, Sylvester. Thomas McT joining us. Okay, are we ready to unbox? I am. Gotta have my magic tool. Unboxing the KAMRUI Hyper H2. Put that right there. Mini PC. Okay. There it goes. turn this way and go to a close-up camera so you can see. There it is. We have a bunch of, let's see, for faster setup, avoid Wi-Fi or LAN initially. So basically, it's what I've been telling you guys. When the very first time you turn on a computer or laptop, even if it's something you built, you don't want internet access. You don't want any unnecessary things plugged in, no printers. Do your setup with just a keyboard, mouse, and monitor. That's it. And once you get to the desktop, then put it online. Then they're effectively saying the same thing here. It's not that it won't work, it just takes a lot longer. And if there is a problem, it's hard to know if one of the updates you got caused the problem or if there was a problem out of the box. Generally speaking, manufacturers do such a good job quality control testing these days that it wouldn't leave the factory in a non-working state. So if it does arrive in a non-working state, it's highly unusual, but it does happen. And the reason why it happens is because of mishandling in the shipping. Now, whether that mishandling happened on the ship as it went from Asia to North America, or from the trucks as it went from the dock to a warehouse, or from the warehouse to its shipping point, or from the final location of having it perhaps drop kicked to your front porch by your local delivery driver, all I can tell you is when it left the factory, it worked. All right, so again, it's pretty rare that we ever get a unit that doesn't work, and for that reason, I can boldly do these videos live and unscripted without worrying of the thing not powering on. It's so unlikely, I might as well go buy a lottery ticket. But again, if you buy from Amazon, if you want that peace of mind that returns will be easy, they can refund your money or send you an exchange, maybe worth paying a little bit extra for that peace of mind. But again, very unlikely. All right, so we've got this wrapped here. Let's open this up. Get that out of the way. You'll notice they've got a piece of tape covering up the Ethernet port saying, set it up first before you plug it in. You'll also notice there's a little switch back here, and there's a little set screw. So if you want to open this up to work on it, you're going to remove that screw, slide the switch, the top pops right off. So I'll show you that here in a little bit. I suppose that's one good thing about KAMRUI being able to reuse the same cases, is this is the same design as the other cases that we looked at that look the same on the outside for the other models they offer. And they all open up that way, so that's good. Okay, what else is in the box? We've got documentation. We've got some cardboard packing. And then we've got what I'm going to guess is a power supply here. We've got some screws. That's probably for a VESA mounting bracket if you want to hang this behind your monitor. Or you can hang it under your desk or, on the wall if you want to. We have what is very likely known as a laptop power cable. It's a Clover style or Mickey Mouse silhouetted 3-prong power cable, most often seen with laptops. These mini PCs all use mobile or laptop parts, so it's pretty much powered the same way as a laptop. Only this doesn't have any batteries. Okay, there's our VESA mounting bracket, so that obviously goes with the screws. And then finally, we have an enclosed HDMI cable, a pretty short one, and that's for if you decide that you want to mount this behind a monitor. You don't want to have a 6-foot HDMI cable hanging out. Okay, finally, we've got one more box. This is, I guess, the power brick. I think that's all we're missing. Yeah, that's all that's in that box. So again, much like a laptop would have a power brick. The only difference, as I mentioned, is this does not have a rechargeable battery in it. And this power brick, 19 volts, 120 watts, 6.32 amps. Now let me clear the table off. Put this stuff in here. And we won't need any of this for our testing, so I'll put all that back. Now, you might want that, but for me, I won't use any of that. And let me just clear this off so I have some room. Now, I mentioned this was really easy to get into, so let's start there since it's so easy. Sometimes here's something loose in there. Something broken? I don't know. Let's open it up and see what's floating around in there. Again, if there is something broken in here, that means somewhere along the shipping process it was mishandled. There's so much a manufacturer can do to protect it, you know, reasonably. But everything has a breaking point. So I don't know if there's something in there that's moving that's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be. But let me just show you how easy this is to get into. There's a screw right up here, right at the top. And I don't know how well you can see that. We'll go back over to camera 2. And that should come all the way out. Yeah. So there's the screw right there. Just that one screw. And then we have a switch right here. If we slide the switch, it pulls open from the side. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear that. My microphone has a pretty good filter on it. There's something floating around. But there's one other step, and that would be to remove, well, I suppose we can remove this tray right here. That would be my guess. Or you can remove this entire gold piece. So if we remove the whole gold piece, I think either way you'll be okay. It's just that the amount of space you'll have to work in will obviously be a lot bigger here. Let me just, I see an indentation right here for taking out this piece, and these screws look a little easier to access, so I think I'm going to start here. Because this, well, it does look like it would hold a 2.5-inch drive. It does not. Just to be clear, this is a heat sink. At least it appears to be a heat sink. And the reason it dips down like that is simply because engineering has to secure this heatsink up here, but they need the heatsink to make contact like with the NVMe drive, which is lower. And it just so happens to be about the right size for a 2.5-inch drive. But as you can see, there's no included cable for that. So that's just a coincidence. Besides, would you really want a 2.5-inch drive sitting on top of a heatsink that's pulling heat from something below it just so you could heat up your 2.5-inch drive? So be careful what you wish for if that was something you were wishing for. You might just get it. All right, so I see an indentation right here, and I'm probably going to have to use something fine to get under it because my fingernails aren't long enough. And there is something kind of sticky under here. Oh, I see. We have the thermal tape was kind of sticking here. And as you can see, there's our NVMe drive. There's a second NVMe slot if you want to add another drive. And then there's our 2 RAM modules. And these are 16 gigs each of, looks like DDR4. So I am still puzzled as to what is making the noise. Let me bring this up to the camera and show it to you before I go too crazy. There's our 2 RAM modules, so it is in dual channel mode. It looks like we got a Huawei NVMe drive in there. I didn't think Huawei was allowed in the United States, but maybe that's just their phones? I don't know. Not my job. There's our BIOS battery, and then hidden, sort of hidden, underneath the NVMe drive. As you would expect, our Wi-Fi card is under there, and you can see you can replace all of this stuff. Right? If you want to upgrade the RAM, if you want to upgrade the NVMe, add another NVMe, there's another slot. Right there. all of our ports. Here on the back, we've got an HDMI display port. That's the switch I just moved to undo the lid, and the screw will lock that basically so that the switch won't move this way when the screw is there. We've got 4 USB 3. We've got an Ethernet port right back here. So look, you don't want to have problems with your computer, and they don't want you to contact support unless you have to. So it's a lot cheaper for them to put this sticker on than to have to individually deal with countless support inquiries on why they're having a problem when they're plugging everything in and then turning this on the very first boot, which is a big no-no and has been for a long time. We've got a Type-C port. This should be USB 4, 2 more USB Type-A's that are USB 3, and audio jack and your power switch. That's all there is. Little rubber feet down here that obviously we don't have to remove to get into this, although I might have to open it up, find out what the heck is moving in there. Because it seems like it's got to be, I was hoping whatever it was would be up at the top and it would just fall out, but I don't know what that is. It may be that I'm hearing like an antenna wire that's not tied down, and that when I'm shaking it, the antenna wire is moving up and down. So it may be nothing, but I sure would like to know. Curiosity, you know? You normally can shake these things and you shouldn't hear anything, but just because you hear something, I don't know. That really does sound like a screw that's loose. Or is that just the sound of my voice? I gotta know. I gotta know what this is, because I don't want to turn it on and then have it short circuit something. Now look, even if I did, that wouldn't be my fault. You'd still be under warranty. If the unit does get damaged in shipping, you're okay. You know, especially, I can tell you for sure, if you buy from Amazon, you'll be able to return that no problem. These screws seem awfully loose, so I'm wondering if I was hearing these long screws bouncing around. I don't think I am. It sounds like it's on the other side, but by taking those screws out, I think this entire gold piece will lift out. I probably want to use a spudger for this. Yeah, I don't want to gouge it up. Yeah. So there's little clips that are holding this piece in. And what I normally do is I'll find somewhere, you can sometimes even use a finger and pry back a little bit, and that'll release the clip. If you force it up, it might be fine, but you could also break the clip if you use too much force. So you got to use your judgment on that, and I always kind of lean in towards better safe than sorry kind of an attitude. I'd rather be too cautious, especially if I'm working with a customer's equipment that doesn't belong to me. Then I'm held responsible for any damages I cause and would be at my expense to replace it. Okay, so not to mention how embarrassing that would be to tell a customer you broke their stuff. If you're a repair person, it's not really instilling any confidence. So this side of it here, oh, I don't want to use that. Seems to be held in differently than the other 3 sides for some reason. So what I would do is pull this whole piece towards me so I can get some space to get in between. Let's see if there's just a stubborn clip in there somewhere, or if I'm missing something. I haven't opened one of these up before, so I'm just using years of computer repair experience to try and figure it out. Now, you'll notice there is a switch right here. This is our, go back over to that camera. This is our switch that releases the lid. And it's very important that you remember how this goes on, because that switch has to stick out through this hole right here. right? So that should be pretty easy to figure out which orientation this goes back. And that switch is not wired to anything. It's just a mechanical lock. So when we put the screw in here, that screw prevents this whole mechanism from sliding, which it's like a suitcase, right? And that it opens the lid up. That's why there's no wires on it. I am still hearing a rattle in here. Now, the tricky part for me is going to be maybe moving this plastic down right here so the motherboard can move away from these holes, all the outputs, and see if I can't lift the board out of here to find out what's rattling. Because I don't know if that's okay or not. We heard from our friend Mark Leibowitz, who's a computer repair technician that's a subscriber and a supporter of this channel, out of Chicago. And he said that he had some problems with a KAMRUI mini PC he bought for a client about 2.5 years ago. But it appears, at least in his opinion, you know, for a computer that cheap, that even if it were dead after 2.5 years, you know, I've always said you can expect about a lifespan of a year for every $100 you spend. Although that's kind of changing now because of the price of RAM and storage going up. Long story short is he said, I'll give KAMRUI this. It was really easy to open the computer up. So he's told us the CPU fan is getting stiff, like the bearings have gone out in it. And he doesn't want to just band-aid it, so he's ordered a new CPU fan, and he'll follow up with us. But he did say that, you know, kudos to KAMRUI for making it easy to get into. And that's what I love. I love hearing from from folks that have had a real experience themselves that we know here, right? Not just some stranger writing on Reddit, because I know I can relay that information or the validity of it based on the fact that I know it's coming from a real person and what they do for a living. And then I can value the information accordingly. If I can't get that information because it's being withheld from somebody like on Reddit or whatever, then I value that information accordingly too. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling the front instead of the rear because the front has fewer ports, and I'm just pulling that away from the case. And at some point I should be able to, yeah, I can see I could rip the Wi-Fi antennas off of this. So these Wi-Fi antennas on all mini PCs and laptops are extraordinarily delicate. You'd be surprised how easy it is to break them. And it looks like they've got the cable wrapped around very tightly here. Although Mark said for him, he found on the unit he has from KAMRUI that there was plenty of slack there. But if you just want to be extra cautious, take out the NVMe drive. We'll just set that aside. And this is our Wi-Fi card, and it just comes out the same way. So it's not a big deal to just take it out of there. You don't even have to physically remove it. We can leave all the wires attached. But you see it looks like a little tiny NVMe drive, and just drape it over the side, just like that. Now, it should be a lot easier for us to take this out without risking damaging those wires. See, I can move the wires out of the way. And now look how much easier that was to remove. So the question is, what am I hearing? What is rattling around in here? There it is. I found it. All right, you're wondering what I'm looking at, because even with the close-up camera, you probably can't see it too well. But that's a little bushing. That right there. I'll just bring it up to the camera. This is a little bushing. If the camera will focus on it. It's a very difficult ask of this camera. But it's a threaded bushing, and this is how you get metal screws into plastic cases, is you'll make a hole in the plastic case, and then a machine will shove that down in the hole while the hole is hot, and as it cools down, it grips onto this. It should not fall out. So one of these screws that we removed likely screws into this, and how that would fall out, I don't know. But in this case, we have these bushings. If I can show you real close here. We have these bushings everywhere we have a post. So there's one here. There's two up here. That's for the VESA mount to put screws in from the other side if you were going to mount the PC. Those are not missing. Here's one in this corner, and this. All of these are there. Nothing's missing. Okay. Where did this come from? We know it's on this side of the motherboard, right? So what possible screws would go in here? Just those four? And I'm just looking inside. If anything, it may be that this is a two-piece kind of setup, because if you look real close, there's like a brass lip over this, but there's no brass lip over this. So I wonder if this one fits inside of another one. So for this, I'll need some really fine tweezers, or needle nose pliers. And there's two different sides to this, and I'm not sure which side goes which way, but let me just test fit to see if that's a thing. And I'll flip it around the other way to see if that's a thing. No. It looks to me like there is already a brass fitting in there. And it should fit in there really tightly. And I can remove this cable right here. That's where your power cable's going in. And these two wires connect it to the motherboard. So if we remove that, we can free ourselves of any potential damage with me swinging this thing around. And let me bring this close up to the camera, and I'll show you what I'm looking at here. And for me, this could be left out, right? So from what I can tell, and I could be wrong, but what we're looking at is, you see these little brass points in each corner? That's where I say they kind of heat the plastic up when they shove that in there, and then it cools down and it's locked in, and then we can put a sheet metal screw in there and it'll lock it in. But notice down here, this is where you put your VESA mount in these two holes. That's why there's not four holes, there's only two. And if you look in there, they look pretty well threaded to me. I can't really tell. But when I turn it around this way, what I'm noticing, everything should be, the same. And what I'm noticing is this side, in fact, you guys might see it better than I can. This side looks like plastic right here, but the other side clearly has a brass surround right there. The antenna wire's in our way. And so I'm guessing that piece fell out from in here. I've never seen that happen before. But if I look at it from the other side, they look threaded. Everything looks like it's there. So I am confused because it's not obvious to me where that piece goes. I suppose I could try taking one of the enclosed VESA mount screws and see if they tighten up in there. Because otherwise, the only other excuse I can come up with that's potential is that the machine that loads these doubled up one so that it was never attached and it was always floating in there, but that should not have passed quality control. This does seem like a piece that could break free in shipping since it doesn't have any screw in it. In other words, these two holes here, unlike the others, they're shipped assembled. These are shipped without screws because you would use the mounting bracket in the enclosed screws to utilize those 2 points. So there's really nothing holding them in other than the fitment at the factory. But I'll tell you what, from every angle I'm looking at this in, it appears there's a standoff in there already, or whatever you call these bushings. Let's go to our accessories, and we'll take that little bag of screws that you've never seen me use before because I never attach these brackets, and let's just see if they'll screw down tightly into these. If so, that's all there is. Like, I don't see, it can't come from this because otherwise the bushing would have been on the top of the motherboard, not the underside. I would say the top of the case. I mean, technically the motherboard's mounted upside down, but I'm referring to top and bottom based on the top and bottom of the case. And when we remove the top, I mean, unless it somehow slid through, which I don't think there are gaps big enough for that. Could it be anywhere else? I mean, they've also got those brass fittings in each of the 4 corners here. They're all there. Nothing appears missing here. Nothing appears missing here. It's just that one right there on the edge. Take one more look at this. Let me get my more powerful glasses out. I'm sure this is a big nothing burger either way, but I just, curiosity got the cat here, and I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. Okay, so whatever these fittings are here, they're much wider than this fitting. So this definitely does not go there, as far as I can tell. And there are metal threads in there. And that's all there is. I have no idea. But okay, first of all, this is brass, so it would be non-conductive. That should float around in there. The biggest concern I would have would be if that fell inside of the fan. So if that were to happen, then you'd be having an overheating problem. But you'd probably have a real quiet computer. Nothing else is shaking around. And wherever that would have come out from, then the screw would be missing too. And I don't see anything here on the board other than the 3 screws that hold the heatsink on where a screw would be used. It still could be under there somewhere, but then there should be a missing screw. And there is no missing screw. So I think maybe that is a factory fault. All I have to do is mention how something never happens in a live unscripted video to make that thing happen. I can manifest it. I've never seen that before. Now look, this doesn't mean we're dealing with a bad manufacturer. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? The question that separates the professionals from the wannabes is how they handle the mistake. So if I were you and I ordered this and I shook it and I heard things moving, I wouldn't even take it out any further out of the box. I would immediately start my return. Now, up to you if you want just your money back because now you've lost any sort of faith in the product. Your confidence is gone. I wouldn't after one. If it were me, I'd have to have like 2 in a row for me to lose confidence. I'd say, okay, this was just luck of the draw. I am not going to fix this myself. I'm not going to potentially void my warranty. I'm going to reach back out and file for an exchange. If it's from Amazon, within probably 2 days, you'll have your new unit, maybe even faster. And Amazon often will offer to do an exchange before you even return the old one. And they'll give you like 30 days to return the old one. And if you haven't returned it in 30 days, they're going to bill you for the replacement. It's fair. Otherwise, you'll have to mail this in after they receive it, then they send you the exchange. And then you'll be down, you'll have to postpone your new computer for about a week. But that's still better than opening it up yourself and then finding out it's not something simple, it's not something that's your fault, but because you opened it, you may not put it back together correctly, which is an indication to somebody who doesn't know any better, you caused the problem because clearly it was opened. Then you can run into warranty frustrations that you should have never entertained. On a brand new product, you should never fix anything yourself while you're under warranty because of your impatience. It could cost you your warranty. So better to be a little more patient, send the thing back. We had a Nemo PC where the switch was broken, one of our viewers did, and they said, well, I don't really need the switch. And I'm like, if I were you, send it back, they'll take care of you. And look, you're anxious, you're excited to get using your new computer, I get it. But you're starting off on the wrong foot. That's not a good way to start a relationship. I would just do the right thing. Make the sacrifice in the investment of returning it. Again, whether you wish to get your money back, or in this case, like with Nemo, they just sent them another unit, and I think they had it in 3 days. And they were so relieved. Like, they didn't think it was a big deal. But now that they've got a different unit, a replacement unit that doesn't have that problem, they're so happy they send it back, right? That's not something you should be postponing. Send it back immediately if you want the most trouble-free experience, and you want to be up and running sooner rather than later, because all you're doing by postponing it is just torturing yourself. It's your choice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do. Nip it in the bud, take care of it. Don't open it up yourself. Do not try to fix it yourself. It's brand new. Just send it back, get a replacement, or get a refund and buy something else. You don't have to listen to my advice, but that's what I would do. So all I can tell you from looking at this is I don't see where this could possibly be missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that little piece and I'll put it, I know I just had that bag of screws out here somewhere. I'll put it in one of those little bags just in case something comes up in the future and I go, oh, that's what that went to. But I don't think that's going to happen. But whether or not this gets put in a trash can or it gets put in the bag, I got to do something with it, so I might as well just put it back in a little bag, put it back in the box, and hold on to it, at least for your warranty period. And that way, if you ever have to return it, you can put it back in its original shipping box. You don't have to worry about packing it a certain way. As long as you pack it the way you received it in this box, then you just put that box in a shipping box. You're good to go. Once your warranty is expired, you could throw the box out. However, if you're ever going to sell it used to somebody, it's worth more if you have all the box and accessories. So again, not telling you what to do, just giving you food for thought, thinking about, here it's brand new and I'm already thinking about, what if I want to sell this in a few years? Or what if I'm going to have a problem in 6 months and I need to send it back? That's how far ahead I'm thinking. So I have a plan. I'm not expecting it to happen. I'm not expecting the house to catch fire, but I definitely know how to get out. I don't want to try and figure that out when the fire's happening. Same logic. All right, so I dumped those screws out somewhere. Where did I put them? Oh, here they are. So I was just going to test to see that these, I'm sure they're not these brass fittings, because these brass fittings are a bit wider on the top. But essentially, when it comes to these VESA brackets, you just screw these little brass fittings on, and you attach that bracket to the back of your monitor or under your desk, wherever you want it, and then this locks in like a, it's got like a keyhole, if you will, where there's a wider end and a slot. So the wide part goes into the wider part of the holes that line up, and then you slide it forward and it becomes narrow and locks it in, but you don't secure it. So anybody can just slide it off, but that's how universally a VESA mount works. on everything that's VESA mounted. Okay, just so you know. So yeah, I mean, those tighten down fine. Those are definitely not the issue. These other two screws are for mounting the VESA bracket into your monitor. If you're going to mount it against a wall or a desk, you're going to want to use probably a different kind of a screw. These are machine screws, meaning they're meant to go into metal. I doubt your walls are made of metal or your desk, but either way. Again, I have no idea where that came from, and there should be an accompanying screw if in fact that was utilized and not just an extra piece that fell in somehow. So I'm going to guess that one of these screws probably fits right in here. No, that's way too tiny. How about one of these? Yep. Okay, so that right there, that's the screws we use to remove this copper piece, right? So there's 4 screws. It goes down into 4 brass standoffs. And then remember, this metal plate goes into these brass fittings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything is here. So that's interesting. So what I'm going to do, before I lose anything besides my mind, is I'm going to take just a little Ziploc bag. By the way, you can use a full-size Ziploc bag if that's all you've got. I save these little Ziploc bags for just such an occasion because I never know when I might need one. And I'll put all the VESA screws in this reclosable Ziploc versus the one I had to cut open that it shipped with, along with that extra little brass fitting. And this will go back in the box to be all but forgotten. Okay, not a big deal, but still, where am I? There I am. Very unusual situation. I can't tell you, I've just never seen that before. But it does show you that things can happen. And it also, well, I'm looking for an explanation. You should not be. If you just spent money, you should get a working product. You should not have to fix it. If you choose not to take my advice, they're your consequences, because all you're probably doing is prolonging the inevitable. Better to rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with. Just send it back, get a replacement, or get it refunded by something else. For me, again, just having one mistake, I'm not going to punish a company or think, that the company's lost my confidence. If I get a second one that is also not what I'm expecting, there's something wrong with it or something not right, I don't think I'll try a third one. All right, so that's my attitude. It doesn't have to be yours, but that's how I determine. I am not so intolerant as to be unforgiving of any simple mistakes. And I don't think you'd like it if anybody treated you that way, but I can't speak for you. Let me take a look in the chat and see what your comments are so far. Sorry guys, I'm just getting caught up here in the chat room. Katrina H says, AI search says that KAMRUI and Ace Magic are part of the same company ecosystem, operated under different brand names by Shenzhen Shanmiang Technology. If you go to minipcunion.com, that is an official support forum for these brands. That's how I know they're related. If we go over here to my window capture, right here, and we'll just type in Mini PC Union. Suppose I could turn my caps lock off. So the robot is verified I'm human. That's good. And I'm going to turn that off. You'll see Cetone, Napogi in Germany, UK, KAMRUI in the US, Ace Magician in, I guess that's Denmark? No. Deutsch, right? It's German. Ace Magic in the UK, Ace Magic in Germany, Ace Magic in the US, Ace Magician in the US, Ace Magician in the UK. And if you scroll down into the forums, you'll see that they have support, drivers, downloads, images, all based on the specific model. These are all AMD models. Scroll down, they get all the Intel models. And these are just different Intel processors budget line, like the N series products. They're notebooks and laptops, Celeron products. You know, this goes back in time. So this is not well published or well known, but if you buy an Ace Magic or a KAMRUI product, or Cetone or Napogi, this is where this should be bookmarked for where you can go for free help. It's all public forums, and representatives of the company participate along with members of the public, and you can see some of the questions that are being asked. This guy Barry represents the company, so he's posting like how-to videos for each individual model as they become available. So you see Barry 777, he's an official of the company. So when you get responses from Barry, they're official. You get responses from a few other people, not so much. This Lamone guy seems somewhat official. You're going to see the same users over and over with answers. They're usually the company representatives. And then you'll find questions varying from different people. You'll very rarely see the same name twice. But if we look at that, we've got the H2, right? The Hyper H2. That should be in here somewhere. Let's see. We have to do a search. I don't know if I have to sign in to do that. We'd look under Intel processors, right? And then we're looking for the i5 H2. Okay. So the H2 has been out for a while. You'll see this was posted. Actually, this wasn't that long ago. But this has nothing even to do with the H2. Oh, I think I have to go further down. I think this is where we need to be. So here's the triple setup monitor if you want a monitor demo. Triple monitor setup demo. Scheduling power on settings and boot settings, wall mount installation, and RAM and replacement. So all I'm seeing is everything from Barry right now. And these will all be how-to videos, pretty short ones at that. 2 minutes and 39 seconds that demonstrates how to open these up. I don't mind close-ups only showing hands, but or if the source of the video is from a reputable source. So, well, I don't know Barry's real name. It's apparently half of his name. And if he's in Asia, that may be just an English. That's pretty funny. Sometimes the English language is a little rough. Use a crowbar to pry open the panel. Do not use a crowbar. Use a spudger. This is what happens when you let AI do your translation. That's okay. Use a crowbar. Oh, that made my day. See, he took out the whole gold thing and everything, where you could just take out the metal piece. I guess it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Probably a little easier to work inside of without that frame around it. But it looked like it was pretty serviceable to me with the frame in there. But anyway, great resource, minipcunion.com. All right, let me get back over to camera one and get back over to the chat. Katrina says, Cetone is reportedly being phased out in some regions. replaced by Paladin. So I don't believe Paladin and Cetone are the same company, but I could be wrong. We've seen Paladin and Wowie coming from the same company, but Cetone I've never even seen. Like, I don't even see that on Amazon, but I also didn't go looking for it. Thomas MacT said the technicians at KAMRUI knew it was being shipped with that extra standoff just to mess with me. Yeah, well, I guess I'm predictable then. David Graham said he got a Mini that's not made by KAMRUI that rattled when it came with a loose screw inside of it. I opened it up and it fell out. Good thing I had a spare. Okay, so yeah, I would say if it's just like a screw that's rattling around and all I had to do was open it up and the screw fell out, obviously that's something we can deal with ourselves. But having to take it apart all this way in order to just find out what the heck it was something very important to me before I turned it on. In fact, if I ship you a computer, I will tell you when it arrives, and I'm talking like a regular computer, a full-size tower, whatever, I tell everybody that orders a computer from me, if I'm shipping it, shake it. If you hear anything rattling, do not turn it on. You need to take the side panel off and inspect to see what came loose in shipping. It could be a RAM module. You know, that last one we received, the heatsink was off of it completely. That's a loud rattle. But even if it's a little screw, even if it's one of those little screws that goes into the PCI slot covers, I always make sure those are tight. Sometimes I forget. They can vibrate out, and then you have this thumb screw floating around in there. You do not want to turn a computer on with a floating piece of metal just waiting to short circuit your brand new system. That would be bad for everybody. I don't want you to send it back. You're not going to be happy that you let the magic smoke out and the computer doesn't work anymore. And it's often done because of impatience. So if you want to be impatient, accept the consequences. Don't cry that you're a victim, because you're not. If you're a victim of anything, you've made a bad decision. Nothing anybody can do about that but you. So I always recommend play it safe. Play it like a professional would. Don't play it like a garage mechanic, and you can't go wrong. With a garage mechanic, you're going to roll the dice. Might be fine, might not. Either way, it's not. If it turns out that the dice don't show in your favor, all you've done is prolong how long it's going to be before you get a working unit, and maybe complicate the return process, because if the manufacturer sees it's been opened, their first thought is, what did you do? So if you never open it, that'll never come up. Raj says that's a heat insert. Is that what they call them? I don't know. I'll take your word for it. Morton Bob said, what are the chances you just got an extra that jumped in the case during assembly? I don't know what the chances are, because it's never happened in the history of this channel. So they got to be pretty low. But it does appear, from what I can see so far without disassembling the board further, that it's exactly what you're suggesting, that, you know, somehow an extra one got in there, slipped through. This is all usually done by machine, and the loader could jam up or allow it, like a stapler. But if you remember staplers and you'd staple paper, remember paper? And sometimes you push the stapler down and two staples that come out, or one is like half out, so you push it again. And when you push it again, it starts to eject a second one before the first one's out. And then you end up with these two weird staples. Maybe something like that happened at the factory. We'll never know, and it doesn't matter. But, you know, whatever theory you've got, sure, anything's possible. It's all up to your imagination. The important thing is I don't see any harm here. So we're good to turn this on and fire it up for the first time as soon as I put it back together. Steve McCura says, hello, Carey, just want to send my best wishes. I've been watching this video from the start. Oh, very good. Well, catch up with us. That's great. Neil Garrett says magnetized screwdriver. Magnets don't stick to brass, so good luck with that. Brass and aluminum. So if you have a magnet and you want to stick it to an aluminum can or an aluminum sided refrigerator, they will not stick. If you have anything brass, the magnets will not stick to brass. Okay, so with that, I guess I can put this back together. Let's see. I gotta remember how to put this back in. Ideally, I'm going to put it back in the opposite way I took it out. So since I took this end out first, this end will go in last. So the back of it with all the plugs and ports, we're going to start here. And I want to be very conscientious of where I'm holding this board and that I'm not pinching any wires in the process. And there's two sets of wires I'm worried about. My Wi-Fi antenna wires, which are delicate. And there does appear to be a cutout here for that. And then these power cables here, which are a lot thicker, I'm not so worried about pinching them or anything. I just want to make sure that I get them routed correctly, mostly for length, so that I don't have to deal with frustratingly trying to get the plug back into the socket when I don't have enough slack cable. So as long as the cable's routed correctly, it should fit in fine. And just by me moving those antenna wires, you might have just caught this whole board start to seat itself. These little thin wires can really interfere. And they're running right by the power switch here. Now I'm trying to remember if that's the way I took it out. I'm wondering if the wires, instead of coming out here, I wonder if they came out the side, just like these do. So let me just roll the video back a little bit. It doesn't really matter, other than I like to put it back the same way I took it apart, especially when it's a customer's computer and not mine. So let me come over here and go to rewind this. Don't mind me, I'm just rewinding my own video. I'm my own best viewer. You know what? I don't think I can make this screen big enough. Come over to this screen. Let's look over here. Riveting video, I'm sure. Just want a close-up of those wires. Pause that right there, Carey. It looks like the wires for the Wi-Fi card come out over here. Okay. I think. So I want the wires, instead of the wires coming out from this side, I need them over here towards this. There is a little cutout in the circuit board now that I'm paying attention. We have, oops. You know, the benefit when you work in corporate America is you see the same equipment every day. So this gets to be known by heart. Unfortunately, I'm working on different equipment constantly. And so rarely do I see two things that are the same. So what I've done, if I bring this up to the camera, is there's a little notch in the circuit board on the other side of the switch. And that little notch is where the cable fits. I don't know if you can see the little square cutout. But that square cutout is there for these antenna wires, and these are delicate. as I keep saying. And before we lock anything down, when we put the board in, make sure you can see all the ports from both sides, or you're going to have a hard time plugging things in. You'll be taking it all back apart again. So a lot of this stuff is very simple work, but it's important you pay attention. If I were unfamiliar with this electronics and I wasn't as seasoned as I am, he said old. Seasoned. I'm seasoned. Then I would take pictures before removing anything. I'd grab my phone, I'd take a picture, and I'd make sure it's in focus, then take off one thing, take another picture, make sure it's in focus, make sure I can see the details. Take your time, and hopefully you don't have to go back to the pictures. But when you go to put it back together, you might go, which screw did I take out from here? Like, we've got 4 different types of screws. We got the M.2 screw, we've got the screw that fixed this piece on, the screw that fixed this piece on, and the screw that locks that lever from moving, which, by the way, you could just leave out. But again, if it's a customer's computer, which I treat everything like it is, I always do the job the same way. I don't say, well, I'm going to do the job with this level of professionalism for the customer, but with this level of professionalism down here for YouTube. I just don't roll that way. I got one gear. It's the right one. That's it. Everything is always consistently done the same, no excuses. Except when I have some excuses. And I usually regret if I do say, well, I don't normally do it this way. If you watch me ever do that, which is pretty rare, you'll often hear me regret making that choice. At some point in the video, it comes back to bite me. So I just want to put this little power cable back on first. It's a little difficult to get to with the motherboard seated. So this does kind of make it a little more difficult to get the board in there, but it's just the order of getting things attached correctly. Because when I lift the board out, I could lose my positioning on the antennas. So, but once I have this attached, then I can focus on the antennas second. So that should have been the first thing I did, right? So learn from my experience here. So we're going to take the front out first, lift that up, and pull the board just enough out so I can put this cable back in. Now this cable is keyed, meaning it will only go in one way. So you don't have to worry about plugging it in backwards because it is a power cable. And that's definitely not one you want to plug in backwards. So they don't allow you to plug it in backwards. If you're struggling to plug the cable back in, it's because you're doing something wrong. Don't force it. It should, when it's aligned and keyed the way it's designed, it should just fit in there with very little force and then snap or click, just like that. That's the first cable. Then start seating the motherboard and guiding those antennas into that little notch. And even just doing that, it's moving around. So you're definitely going to need 2 hands with this or a helper. But overall, that's pretty darn simple. I mean, I can't really complain about their design here. You know, I never had to take rubber feet off or look for any hidden screws. So, and that was something that Mark Leibowitz emailed me about, telling us, like, you know, say what you will, at least they're easy to work on. And that's a totally different model. So that looks like a design philosophy from KAMRUI, just overall, which I appreciate as a technician. All right, I'm going to put the Wi-Fi card back in there. Where's my camera 2? So just putting the Wi-Fi card back in. And then I'll secure that down. And we should put everything back in the opposite order that it was removed. When tightening down the screw for the Wi-Fi, do know that the antennas, they're like a button, that snap-on button, and they move back and forth. And you can easily trap the wire underneath the screw. Now, there's really no voltage running through these, nothing meaningful, but it will absolutely affect your range and performance of your Wi-Fi. So make sure you pay attention that you don't pinch any of the wires, especially underneath that screw that is located right beside that wire. It's just asking for trouble. But if you give it the attention it wants, the little extra attention, it's not that much effort. You just have to know what to look for. So now we can put our NVMe drive back in, right like so. And the reason I'm putting these little things in first is because of the little teeny tiny screws. These M.2 screws are so small and so easy to lose. I just want them off my desk and secured back in position where they will not get knocked off or dropped. They can be very hard to find. Now, for this reason, I'm going to go to securing the motherboard down. One would argue maybe secure the board down first, but look, either way. Am I doing this right? Wait a minute. No. I am not doing this right. These screws that secure the board down are also the screws that hold this down, if we remember when I took it apart. So when we reinstall this piece, which is going to go this way, yeah, I can see now that removing that NVMe drive would be darn near impossible. The only reason you would take this off is if you wanted to just do your RAM. And even then, yeah, even then I'd say, wait a minute, I have this backwards. This goes this way. Let me take another look. Let me take back what I say. When this is installed in the proper direction, you get full access to remove the NVMe and the RAM. So you do not need to take this off. Even though their how-to video shows them taking this off, all you have to do is take off that heatsink. But it's your choice. It's not like you're going to hurt anything. It's still 4 screws. So we should be able to lock that back in. And notice I fed this end in first to make sure the switch would stick out the back. Okay? Was paying particular attention to that. And then these square holes are what these latches latch into that keep it from, when you slide the switch back, then this can lift away. And when you push that back in and secure it with the screw, when you push it back in, it latches, and when you put the screw in, the screw prevents the latch from moving backwards. Okay, so that's the engineering behind it, the explanation. Now I can put these screws back in. And I'm just going to get them started. And these do not need to be over tightened. Basically, you just want to make sure that they're snug. And that's it. If you over tighten because it's plastic, you may damage the plastic. You could crack things. And if you really crank on it, you can crack the corners off the motherboard. So, or worse. Well, I suppose it's worse. But remember, these are going into those brass fittings, and you can break the brass fittings free of the plastic, and you'll never get the screw out. It's just the whole piece will come out with the brass fitting, and as far as I know, there's no way to fix it. Maybe some glue of some kind? Okay, so here's our heat sink. This can go in next. Just looking at the cutouts, thermal tape. They don't give you any other thermal tape, though, which is weird. So you're on your own for keeping the next NVMe cool by providing your own thermal tape. That seems like a, they didn't quite meet you all the way. They go, oh, here's a slot for you to use if you want to upgrade. But by the way, the thermal tape, we don't give you any extra. And this is only going to go in one way because of these corners that stick out. So you cannot put this in this way. You cannot put it in this way. The screw holes will only line up. So that should give you some peace of mind that you're assembling it correctly. At least it does for me. And you see here, these screws are apparently metal because the magnet is working to hold those. And it should for most screws, but sometimes you run into aluminum screws or brass screws, and you'll wonder what's wrong with your magnetized screwdriver. And, well, that's just how magnetism works. Brass is also really good when you're dealing with plumbing because it won't rust. Okay, with that, this should just pop right back in. And if you notice on the gold piece, you got these slots that are horizontal and slots that are vertical. So the vertical slots, we're going to slide in like so and close it and push down. And it may not snap in because it's in a released position, the switch. So when we close it, there's a little bit of a click. It does click in. And then when we put this little screw in here, it's going to block that switch from moving to the side. Like I said, it doesn't really appear to screw into anything to secure it. It might, but for the most part, it's just a barrier. So again, you don't have to make this really tight. And now we cannot move the switch. Also, if you make that super tight, not only can you strip it out, but you might have a difficult time then removing it the next time you want to open this up. Okay, I think I covered that pretty thoroughly. What do you think? Pretty thorough? That's why I love doing this live and unscripted. You never know what's going to happen. That's never happened before, but again, not a big deal. Okay, I want to make sure I can see all my ports. I should have double checked. All right, we're good. So we're going to plug in power. I need a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor. We're going to do our very first power on. Now, if we have any issues at power on, we won't take it any further. We're not going to diagnose it. This would be something we'd say, hey, we got a bad unit. Please send us another one, and we'll give it another shot. If we still have a problem after that, well, we probably don't need to go any further than that. But I don't think we're going to have any problems. Of course, I already said that before. I was wrong. So as far as problems go, that's a pretty mild one to have, but it's still unacceptable. Regardless of how serious it is, it's still not normal and not what you should be expecting when you go over a brand new device. But it does happen, and it's not the end of the world. All right, let's jump over to the streamer, and we'll turn this on. Let me first see that we get power. Oh, I probably have to plug this in. Let's grab a power cable right here. Plug this bad boy in. Okay, take 75. Here we go. Blue light comes on. Let's switch over to the streamer now. And hopefully we're going to get a power on self-test. There it goes. Interestingly, it's not branded. Mark Leibowitz mentioned this to me. It just says AMI instead of like KAMRUI. You know, Dell or HP would make sure you see their logo and boot up. It's neither here nor there. It's just sometimes it's a sign that we're dealing with a lower priced, you know, budget machine where, you know, paying somebody to make these logos and programming them in adds to the cost of the machine. Now, if you're selling at such a scale like Dell and HP, probably price per machine is pennies. When you're a smaller manufacturer, though, it can make you less competitive in the marketplace. So that's likely why it's designed that way. Now, if I go full screen over here, for me, now I can see it the way you guys do. Let's go through our out-of-box experience. Continue in English. United States is our region. US keyboard. No secondary keyboard. We're not going to connect to the internet, as I mentioned. Accept the license agreement. Give the user a name. I'm just going to call the user with no password. And it looks like, I don't know, is it rebooting? What's it doing? Oh, it's getting things ready for us. I don't recall being asked about these privacy settings, right, where I like to leave location on. You can go in the control panel and adjust those, but that's weird. And this is a brand new model, so there may not be support drivers available for it yet. I'd have to go and look at the KAMRUI website and see. But they did warn me. They did say if you review this right now, we may not have the site set up yet for it. But I said, that's okay. That way, at least we'll be first. All right, so just so you guys know, we did find it on Amazon, but I don't see it on the KAMRUI site. And I can always go to the Mini PC Union forum and ask for the drivers. I'm sure Barry would provide me a download link if I want them right now. But other than that, you know, the fact that the security settings weren't asked for. It's probably just a simple Windows 11 installation. Is it Windows 11 24H2, 25H2, Home or Pro? Let's find out. Right click, System. What did we get? 24H2, yeah. And it is Windows 11 Pro. Very good. Now that we're at the desktop, we can plug in our internet or go on Wi-Fi, whatever you prefer. I prefer a wired connection. So as soon as I plug my Ethernet cable in, watch this bottom right corner where that little globe is right down there. Plug that in, and in just a minute, you'll see that start to flash. Perfect. It'll go solid. That means we're connected. Once we're connected, now I can go to Windows Update, start downloading updates. And that's why they put the little piece of tape over. That's what they mean. They mean get this to the desktop, then remove the tape covering the port, then plug it in, just like I demonstrated. I do like to make these personal preference changes by turning these features on. And the other thing I want to check, well, first of all, I don't want it in 4K because that text is way too small for my eyes. So I'm going to go to Display Settings. We're going to change this to 1920 by 1080. And I want to check our power settings because I don't want this going to sleep while we are live on camera, which it would have done in 5 minutes. So we're going to change that to 2 hours. And putting the computer to sleep, I say never, unless the computer has batteries. I don't even think this should be offered on a computer because it creates a lot of support calls for something that's completely useless unless you have batteries. So for that reason, I only turn off the display. Save the changes, close that out, and we'll see Windows updates downloading and installing. So while Windows Update downloads and installs, let me get back over to the chat room and see if you have any questions for me. Andy says they could have used regular heat sinks instead of a piece of metal. Yeah, you think that would have been cheaper, right? I agree, but it is what it is. Andy said the insides look okay. I think it's important, and I can't stress this enough, that you have to understand what you're buying and how much you're paying to understand what to expect. Now, if I go to a fancy steakhouse and I order a hamburger, I expect a handmade burger. I don't expect a frozen, perfectly formed patty like I would at McDonald's or some other fast food place. I'm also going to pay more for it. So if you say to me a burger is a burger and the $2.50 McDonald's burger should be up to par to the steakhouse burger, which is, you know, let's say a reservations required kind of place or an upper end dine-in experience where the burger is $19. How much we're paying for what we're getting back should be no different than when you go to the grocery store and you have a cart overflowing with groceries and the person in front of you has a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs. Who do you think is going to pay more? Who do you think is getting more? So at a $500 price point for a pretty nice i5, we're above the budget range, but we're still in a budget range for a computer of these stats, of these specifications. So then the question becomes, okay, they're not making the processor, KAMRUI, they're not making the RAM, they're not making the storage. So why are you paying more from somebody else, like let's say it's Sony for the processor made by the same company, the RAM, I don't know, maybe Sony makes their own RAM, I don't know, Samsung, whoever. Maybe you are going to pay more for higher end components. But at the end of the day, is that important to you? Because if it is important to you, you shouldn't be looking at the budget brands. And KAMRUI and Ace Magic are pretty well known as budget brands. They're not known as market leaders in bleeding edge technology. So what matters more to you is right for you. But if what really matters to you is, you know, name brand, extra warranty, extra service, you know, all that stuff, it's going to cost you more because there's more profit in that item to pay for all those extra things you want. But if a company doesn't offer those things, then they don't have those expenses and they can sell for less money. It's all key in how much you're paying. If you pull up that big cart of groceries and you think you're going to get a bill the same as the guy in front of you that had 2 items, I'm not sure how reasonable you are. But you should pay for exactly what you're getting. Okay. So when we're comparing, I think it's only fair to say, if there's some shortcoming that you find about this unit, then my question to you is compared to what? And if you're comparing this to an $800 unit, that's not fair. If you're comparing this to a unit that doesn't have this high end of a processor, storage, or RAM, that's not fair. If you have an equivalent unit in processor, storage, and RAM that sells for the same or less money that you think is superior, then you have a basis for that thought. But if you're saying this isn't good enough, my question is, compared to what? So if you could provide that to me, I can get on board with what you're saying. But otherwise, I don't know what you're comparing it to. You're either comparing it to something that's not as well equipped that sells for the same or less, or you're comparing it to something that's better equipped, in which case I don't understand where the logic is here. Of course, if you pay more, you can expect those additional bells and whistles. Doesn't mean you're going to get them, but it would be reasonable to expect them. All right, so yeah. So compared to what? That's all I want to know. Compared to what? That would solve the problem. Katrina said, Carey, great job of explaining all of that assembly and disassembly. Thank you, Katrina. I just make it up as I go. It was very easy to work on. I mean, we've seen some that are quite difficult from other mini PC manufacturers, and I appreciate the thought that KAMRUI put into the serviceability of that. Now, how long it lasts or how good their support is, you guys have to tell me from your own experience. They've been in business quite a number of years now, and that doesn't happen if you're making bad products. You'll just go out of business because you'll have a bad reputation and no one's going to buy your products. So the very fact that they continue to exist is a good sign. We can run Malwarebytes on it if we want to scan it. I'm sure it'll come up clean, but you know, I'll be the first one surprised if it were to find anything. Ace Magic did have that vendor that kind of screwed them over, and they took the beating for it. And I'm sure they're taking extra steps to ensure no other vendor embarrasses them like that again. That was quite disappointing for Ace Magic to have a betrayal of a trusted vendor that damaged their reputation online. That was nipped in the bud as soon as they figured out what was going on. Said, how the heck did this happen? But they find the culprit. But they did not do that. They are responsible for it, but they didn't do it. So I'm not saying it was okay. They should have had better quality control checks. They had a little too much trust in their vendor. I bet they won't do that again. There's our friend Buster saying good night. Hey, Buster, thanks for hanging out with us today. Always good to see you, my friend. Glad to hear you're doing well. We'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Tony, excuse me, Tony Aindow saying hello here in the chat. Roger says, what are the specs of this PC? So in the video notes, in the video description, Or if you missed the beginning of the video, we went through all of that already. You can click on the link in the video description, take it to the Amazon page, and there it lists the processor, the RAM, the storage. Now I can't speak for the speed of the storage until we run the test, and I don't want to run the test until we get the updates. Same is true with like Cinebench, so I'll probably do all that stuff offline and just do a quick follow-up on this because it'll take another half an hour. And that's after the updates are done, which may also take another half an hour. But we expect the specs to run within a window of range that we expect a Gen 4 NVMe to be in. So a Gen 4 NVMe should run no less than 5,000 megabytes per second on the reads. And all the way up to 7,400 on the reads if it's a higher spec NVMe drive, which will also run hotter and cost more. So we don't know what this Huawei drive does. I have never seen one before. So I'll have to run Crystal Disk Mark on it to see what the numbers are. But anything less than 5,000 is not acceptable. Anything at 5,000 or above, great value. The Core i5 processor, I've already forgotten what it was. I got to go look at the link myself. This is the I think it's in the specs. Let me go down and look at the specs here. Oh, Mara has the wrong specs. I see. Unfortunately, even we get confused when manufacturers use the same model number but change the specifications out. So I'll have Mara update this because what we've got here is the Amazon link in the video description points to the actual unit we have, but the KAMRUI store does not have this model listed, and it looks like Mara grabbed the specifications from the KAMRUI's official site, which is spec'd out differently than the model we're reviewing here. So that's an easy correction, and I totally see how that's confusing because they're both called the KAMRUI Hyper H2. And if we go over to the Amazon site, we'll look at it together. This is the i7. Wait a minute. It's got a Core i5 sticker on it. Let me just read the box. Wow. I thought I had this all figured out. There's usually a sticker on the box that tells you what's inside. Let's see if we got that on here. No? Okay, this says it's an i7-13620. Well, there's one way to know for sure. Let me jump back over to the mini PC here, and let's pull the specs up one more time. I think it's supposed to be an i5, but let me just check. Well, let's see. On that, bring this up full size for me. Go down to the start menu, right click, system. Wait, hold on a minute. I am absolutely confused right now. This says it is an i5-14450, but the box...
Okay, so let me explain something.
What happened?
So the link that I pulled all of the specifications from is their official store link, which is the Amazon link, though, is for the Hyper H2. That one is, I don't believe, the Hyper. She did tell me that that one will not be available on Amazon until next week.
But yet it is available on.
But it's not, sort of, kind of. It's again with the silliness that they're doing with the names. That one I don't think is the Hyper. The one that's on Amazon is the Hyper. The one I pulled all the specifications from, which are correct in the video notes, and the one you have on the desk, that's on their official store link. That is in the video notes.
I swear it had a piece of paper on it that I pulled the CPU name from.
have that paper.
I think I put it in the trash if you didn't empty the trash. It's that little square piece of paper that came with it.
I'll look.
It'd be right on top. You shouldn't have to dig for it. I thought there was also, so on the back, what I'm looking at here, it says name mini PC, model H1, H2, or H3. Voltage DC 19 volts, color silver, gray, or black. RAM, it says 0 gig, 8 gig, 12, 16, 32, or 64, and 32 as a check. ROM, which is what, I don't know, they call an SSD, that is checked with 1 terabyte, and the spec is US. It also has Japan and Australia, but US is checked. So it doesn't specify the CPU on the cover. So where else would I have seen it?
I don't know. I'm assuming because you on Amazon and typed H2 and pulled that.
No. That is not what happened, because when you pull up the KAMRUI H2, it pulls up 3 different models. So I was very careful to select the right one. That's why I'm so confused right now, because I swear that little piece of, so you didn't find it, I guess, because you went back into it.
I'm not digging through the.
Well, hold on a minute, because this is going to drive me crazy. I specifically matched the specs on the box. You know, I thought a question like, what's it spec'd with? It was pretty simple. It's exactly what it says it's spec'd with. Well, I'm eating my words now, because now I'm not even sure. It's right here. What does this say? You tell me what that piece of paper says right here. What CPU does it have?
The i7-13620H.
That's what was included. This piece of paper specifies that.
Apparently it's wrong.
Oh, man. Okay. Here's the problem. When companies do this, it not only confuses the consumers, it confuses the people that work at the company. So it's not my imagination. There's an enclosed piece of paper that says, this is what we've sent you, and it specifies that processor. So when I went on Amazon, I found that version of the H2. And I was saying Mara got the version wrong when she goes to the official site, and the version they sent us isn't even on the official site. And they told us that the model they sent us isn't available on Amazon yet. So all of this made sense. Wow. Wow. And by the way, normally the CPU is written back here. It just doesn't tell us. Why do you suppose they don't have a little checkbox for which of the 3 or 4 CPUs that go with an H2? Why isn't that back here? I should have been able to look. So the good news is we got the latest and greatest, all right? The version that I thought they sent us was the prior version, but this would be the current. This would be a 14th gen Intel. That means that my link to Amazon, the link that you put in is right. So my apologies, because I said, oh, Mara made a mistake.
Yeah. What's even more confusing about this is where she said that it wasn't available on Amazon. Who delivered that was Amazon.
Yeah, it came from, well, it's an Amazon enclosure that says what they shipped.
Let's make this more confusing.
Right. So I'm looking at if I type in KAMRUI H2, so that, see, there's an 11th gen for $500. There's what they said they sent me, which is the 13th gen. And then there's and there's the 11th gen again. There's the 13th gen again. Then there's this unit here, which is actually cheaper and it's better. For $499 compared to $509 for the previous gen. Granted, I mean, you're looking at an i7 versus an i5. Oh wait, that's only 16 gigs of RAM. We have 32. We do have the i5-14450HX. That explains the i5's Intel Core sticker on the unit. And maybe Maybe they're saying they don't have the 32 gig model in stock at Amazon. You know what? That would explain the price difference. So 16 gigs is the only thing that's different here. Unless this unit uses DDR. No, we opened this up. We saw DDR4 in here. Don't mind me while I'm trying to piece all this together.
Good luck trying to suss that.
Yeah, it just got real confusing. So here's the problem. You remember how I said Ace Magic got a little too trusting with their vendors and wasn't double checking their work? I just did the same thing by assuming everything that the vendor, in this case KAMRUI, sent to me was accurate. And it's led to all of this confusion. This is a marketing problem. Now, we had a loose piece inside of the case. That's mistake number one. The way it's being packaged and sold with the same model name, to me, is a mistake. They clearly have done this with intention, but I think it's an exercise in bad judgment. Every time they change the generation of CPU, they should be changing the model number, and that would avoid all of this confusion. Now, I don't know the complexities involved with trademarking different model names and how much cost savings there is in reusing old model names, but I also don't know what sort of customer disappointment this could lead to if the customer isn't receiving what they're thinking they ordered. Now, I've already shown you 3 different versions of this, and there's no doubt in my mind this version is the best of the 3 if you want to say what's the latest, newest chip. Of those 3, which one is the most current? It's the one they sent. So I'm glad about that. I'm not glad that it doesn't tell me what CPU is on the box, which is why I had to rely on the piece of paper. The only other way I would have been able to set this video up is I would have had to take it out of the box, not do a live unboxing, set it up and verify the specs. But why would the specs not match? Why would I have any excuse to do that? So we've had a couple of first-time experiences here today that any other content creator, especially those that don't show their face and don't use their real name, would edit out. You would have never seen this. That's why I say the people that do that, they're hiding things, and I can't tell you what they're hiding because they're hidden. So here's more evidence that everything I'm doing here is real, genuine, and authentic. I'm not intending to make a company look good or look bad. I'm just giving you an honest experience that's live, unrehearsed, and unscripted. There's nothing about this that worries me with regards to quality, but I am concerned about the confusion in how they're marketing it, and that little manufacturing issue where we had that spare little brass piece. Never seen that happen before. I hope it's like a lottery ticket, you know, where it's one of those things, lightning just struck and it won't strike again in the same place. And we happen to be lucky enough to capture that on camera, because the odds of that should be very, very low. The odds of me getting one like that. Now, if they all ship that way, they got a manufacturing problem, but I can't tell with one unit, and I have to assume that we just got real lucky and we were able to demonstrate that live on camera. We provide the information as full disclosure as is to KAMRUI, so they can correct the website descriptions, pricing if we see an issue with pricing. If there's an issue with manufacturing, they can double inspect that part of the manufacturing process before it gets boxed up and shipped out to make sure that that was just one, or if it was a batch that got affected. We don't know any of that yet. So we provide this information to help them. It's not here to embarrass them or insult them. It's here to help them. Hey, I know you wouldn't have shipped this out to me like this if you were aware of it. So I'm just telling you so you're aware of it. Now, how they respond, I have no control over it. It's out of my hands. I did my part. If they wish to do an audit of their manufacturing facility to figure this out, or they're seeing support calls coming in or letting support team know, let us know if you're hearing customers complain of rattling, then they know it was a batch that were affected, not just one. But that's all on them. I did my part. Now, getting back to the specs, let me jump back over here real quick. See how our updates are progressing along too. So we are an i5-14450HX. We do have 32 gigs of RAM, and it is Windows 11 Pro. I will be putting 25H2 on this, and that should happen automatically. The other thing we can do is we can look in our device manager and make sure that all the drivers for everything are loaded. If you wanted to reinstall your operating system on this, like just say you didn't trust it because the privacy settings didn't come up, we're going to make sure they know that too. That doesn't make us too comfortable that we're skipping part of the out-of-box experience that for many people is the most important part. Where do I turn those settings off? Now you can go into the control panel or the settings, and you can change those after the install, but it should have been asked during. Oh, I guess I'm already in the settings. Maybe I just search for privacy. No, it's not what I want. All right, well, now that I know I've got that latest and greatest, if we go to KAMRUI's website, or potentially even Mini PC Union, honestly, but KAMRUI store, I don't know, what would I put in there? Yeah, official store. And then we look under, let's see, what do we have? Guest Hyper. So I guess it's a Hyper series. That's what the H, I think, is for H2. H2 Mini. Ooh, $819. Which one is this? That's an i7-13620. So we're right back into the same circle again. That's the other model I thought we had. And I don't know why it's priced so high, and I don't know why they put a dash between IN and Intel. Intel stands for Integrated Electronics. INTEL. So apparently they don't know how to spell Intel because it doesn't have a dash in it. But if you were going to put a dash in it, it should be between the two words that are shortened. Integrated, then the dash, then electronics. You'd still be spelling it wrong, but at least I could see how you got there. I don't know what they were thinking when they did that. But regardless, that's a minor little nitpick. But leave it to me. If there's going to be some nitpicking, good luck keeping up with me on that. The H2 game Little Steel Cannon. Okay. Do they make cannons out of anything else? Iron, maybe? Let's see. Yeah, it's still showing the i7-13620. Oh, I didn't check with the speed of the network port. Let's check that real quick. We'll go down here, right click, device manager. I'm also curious who makes it. Network adapters. It's a Realtek Wi-Fi 6. That's also the Bluetooth. And it's a Realtek 1 gig, so it's not 2.5 gig. So even though we have a newer processor, a 14th gen processor, the previous gen processor here is spec'd out a bit better and is priced a bit more. Interesting. Yeah, that's just a gigabit, standard 1 gig Ethernet connection. Weird. What a weird design choice. The fact that it even has DDR4 is kind of weird too, but that makes it cheaper. So I mean, I don't have a problem with it being weird. It's just weird. And it does have that USB 4 port. Let's remember that. The Grand Slam interface. I don't know why the word slam is in there, or a grand. Not sure what this has to do with baseball, hitting a home run with the bases loaded, but again, there's some really strange marketing preferences here.
Use the link in your video notes.
Mara wants me to use the link in the video notes. Take all the fun out of it. Sure, if you wanted to do it the easy way. Let's do it here, since we're waiting. Anyway, go to YouTube. I'll type in CareyHolzman H2 review. Pause that, scroll down. Right here it says more. That's our video notes. There's the links to the product key, where you can buy Windows and Office product keys. Then model KAMRUI H2. Expected availability in 3 days. CPU, okay, here's all the specs. Is that USB 4? This says it's got USB 3.2 Gen 2 and a Type C, but it doesn't tell us if the Type C is USB 3 or 4. More questions. Wait, what's down here? USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A. Another Type A. Oh, this is USB 3.2 on that. This is not USB 4. Wow. Wow. Well, I was basing it on a different model that, again, the piece of paper included with the unit is what they sent us, and there's nothing on the box to suggest that piece of paper was wrong. So there you go. So if we go to the official site, this is the unit we have, $469. So it's even a better price. It's significant. That's $50 cheaper. So you're not going to get the 2.5 gig network, and you're not going to get the USB 4, but you will save $50 and get a processor that's a 14th gen. That's with 32 gigs and 1 terabyte. Once again, if you consider the cost of 32 gigs and 1 terabyte of storage and subtract it from this price, I think that's a pretty darn good deal. If you need USB 4 and you need 2.5 gig networking, it makes sense that that should cost a little more because you're going to be getting a little more. All right, enough of that. Where is support? Specifications. Support is up here. Drivers and downloads. And we want the H2. Okay, this says it's for the i7-13620, which has the USB 4 and the 2.5 gig networking. And that's an i7 versus an i5. So are these using the same drivers? I don't know. They're taking us to a Google Drive for a large download here, which if I hit the download button should show us, yeah, it's 2.7 gigs. Are these the same drivers? I would not assume they are. Probably 80% of them, but I don't know that the network card drivers or the Wi-Fi drivers.
The drivers will be.
Yeah, so they were asking us if we would postpone this review until they had this ready. So we already had it listed. It was already too late for us to go back after we scheduled it. But they did not make that clear when they asked us if we would review it. Once again, they did not communicate to us that they wanted us to review it in any particular time. And given that we've had a lack of items to review, I was very anxious. And usually companies are like, hey, can you review that as soon as you receive it? Can you review that before you receive it? It's pretty unusual a company will send us something and then go, oh, by the way, did you maybe postpone that? We're not ready yet. If they would have said that in the beginning, we would have never been doing this today. So regardless of that, we can still pull the drivers off of this unit. So all I was trying to really get to in a long, convoluted way was to show you that if you wanted to reinstall Windows, you can grab these drivers right now that are already installed with a simple command prompt. And if you want to know how to do that, you would just go to my YouTube channel, right? Let's go back to where I was and type in CareyHolzman, I don't know, maybe just drivers. I know I misspelled it, but it should know what I mean. And it might not, so we'll take the B out of there, see if that helps. Okay, I think it's downloading. It's installing an update. This is an advertisement. How to fix KareyHolzman. Like that's possible. That should be obviously a scam. You can't fix KareyHolzman. What the hell is wrong with people? All right. Anyway, driver backup hack. No tools required. That's it right there. So this is a simple command you can type into PowerShell. I think it's PowerShell. No, it's command prompt. So you bring up the command prompt. So let's try it right now. We'll right click, go to, no, it's not in here. Type right down here, CMD. There's command prompt. We want to run that as an administrator. And that's going to open up a little DOS window here. That's what I call it. And it says to copy this code right here. So we'll highlight this code and replace this with the full destination. So right here, I'll hit Control-C to copy that. And let's make a destination right now. I want to put this into a folder called drivers. So I'll right-click, create a new folder right here on my C drive. I'm going to call it drivers. So that's going to be the path I use. So getting back to that little DOS window, I'll paste that right there and then C:\drivers. Make sure you spell it correctly, because in this case, it does not know what I mean. It's going to take me quite literally. And I'm still misspelling it. And hit enter. And that should extract all the drivers that are currently on this machine and put them all into that C:\drivers folder. It's pretty quick. So if I exit, just type exit. And let's get out of this. If we go back to the yellow folder here. By the way, I don't like this opening in home. I'm not a fan of that. I like this to open in this PC. So here's another tip from your Uncle Carey. If you're like me, you don't want this opening to home. So click on the three dots, go to options, and the very first thing it says, open File Explorer to home, drop that to this PC, click OK. And now, when we click on that yellow folder, whoops, I didn't mean to bring up Copilot. Now when I click on the File Explorer, now it takes me where I really prefer it to go. All right, so double click on the C drive, we should have a drivers folder, and in there is all of the drivers. So all I have to do is copy this folder onto a flash drive, then I can reinstall Windows 11 Pro. I do not need the product key. Once Windows 11 Pro installs, again, we're going to disconnect from the internet before we begin the install, go through the setup experience, then plug it into the internet. Then we can copy over our drivers, and then we can add the drivers right back in. So I don't have to wait on KAMRUI to provide them. We've already got them pre-installed. Just FYI. Just a little bonus tip today. Happy Friday. Bonus tip from Uncle Carey. What more could you want in life? I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm not going to wait for all these downloads. Honestly, there's going to be another round after this. So let me refresh this page over here and see if there's any other questions, comments. Happy to help any way that I can, if I can. No confusion in this one at all. Jimmy wants to know, which foot is Mara going to kick Carey with? She said both feet with big shoes. Hey, listen, I'm looking at the paperwork. I can read what the paperwork says. I'm believing the paperwork over Mara because there's nothing on the box other than the paper included in the box. Of course I'm going to believe the paper in the box. It's totally excusable. I don't deserve to be kicked for that. But yeah, she was right the whole time. There you go. It's pretty weird when she has it right and the manufacturer has it wrong. I'm just saying, she doesn't work for them. She shouldn't know their information better than they do. But apparently she does. And she will let them know. Thank goodness. And Jim Kenny puts the specs there as well in the chat. Thank you for that, Jim. Craig Casabona with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Craig. Richard DeFries says hello. And there's Bill Sony joining us. Gregory Howard says hello, Carey, Amara, and all in chat. Now a member 28 months. Thank you, Gregory. Good to see you, my friend. Andy said, so Marlena's notes are correct. Yes. Yes, 100%. I had it wrong. I was misled. Or Mr. Led. Tony Aindow says hello. Marsman50 joining us from a 29-degree Fahrenheit cold Wisconsin. Thomas MacT said, besides using magnets for assembly, the switch is second to me as one of the best for text to work on. It's nice to think that the manufacturers are listening to the end users about disassembling. Yeah, I will say, you know, the Minis Forum nabbed 9, which you could push down in the corners and it would open like a cabinet door. The only thing I didn't like about that is whenever I picked the computer up or moved it, I would always unlock it, which was annoying. I mean, not the worst thing in the world, and certainly preferred over removing rubber feet to get to the screws, which has been a constant complaint with many, but not all, Minis Forum models. To have the latch that requires it to be moved and to have it secured with a screw, so even when you are picking it up and you might hit that latch, you're not going to accidentally expose the components. I think that's an improvement, and I would love to see this adopted by other mini PC manufacturers. Right, just a lot easier to get into. It's like with Minis Forum, they went from covering the screws with rubber feet then to just the cabinet style clicking locking mechanism, which doesn't secure it really. So they kind of went from one extreme that was a little more difficult than it needed to be to one that was a little too easy, where you can inadvertently get into it by mistake. This is a nice, like if it's a pendulum swinging, this is more towards the middle than going to one side or the other. So I agree. I think that's a great design from KAMRUI, and I'm glad to see they use it on so many different models. Andy said that's the first Mini I've seen that doesn't show its name on posting. Oh, when you fire up the computer and you get the post screen and it says AMI, that's the BIOS maker. So usually when you go into the BIOS, it'll say AMI somewhere in there to give credit to the BIOS. The people who make the BIOSes are not the computer manufacturers. The computer manufacturers hire them to write BIOSes for their machines. Usually part of that hiring involves they would provide the logo to them and they would embed the logo into the BIOS. But that does cost more money, and as a result, they would have to sell this for more money. I'm assuming anyway that that's why that KAMRUI doesn't do that. For other companies, the brand is more important than the product. If you buy a Sony TV, it's going to say Sony on the front of the TV. It's going to say Sony when you turn on the TV. The branding is ultra critical. And the amount of money they pour into that branding is added to the cost of the unit, and that's why Sony products are not cheap. That's partly why anyway. So again, while it is unusual, we can understand why a company may choose to let the product speak for itself. I know this is a KAMRUI just based on that logo on the machine. I know just by looking at it, that's a unique logo, and I'll recognize it every time I see it. I don't need the name KAMRUI on it. It's like the grill of a car. I know a BMW grill. I know an Audi Shield grill or the BMW dual kidney grill. The manufacturers will put a lot of effort into being able to identify them just from the shape of that front grille. They patent that, they trademark it, nobody else can use it. And that way, you don't need to see the word Audi or even the 4 circles. You just have the shield, or the BMW with the dual kidney design. Every manufacturer has their own distinct design. Dodge has like a plus sign that makes up the grille on most of their cars, not all of them. And it's an identifier. It's a way to immediately associate the product to the brand. And that's a powerful marketing tool. And when a company says, we're not going to do that because all that branding is going to add cost, we're going to let the computer speak for itself, then the only downside that I can see is giving them all the same name. This is an H2, but this is also an H2. This is also an H2. Please don't do that anymore. There's a lot more numbers besides 1, 2, and 3, right? You can keep going, 4, 5, 6. There could be a reason that's cost savings there too, but I think that that's creating some confusion. At least it did for me. Maybe for you, all of you, it was all clear. For me, I was spun around on that. So, just my opinion. I would handle that differently if I were in marketing, and I wouldn't put a dash in the name Intel. In fact, when dealing with company names, a lot of companies are very specific over what letters are capitalized or spaced out. Be Quiet is a good example of this. And if I posted a video featuring a Be Quiet product and I did not have the capitalization or spacing correct, even though the video is perfect, let's just pretend, they'll say, can you correct the way you spelled our product, our company name? It's that important to them. This should be lowercase, this should be uppercase, there shouldn't be a space. And of course, I'm happy to accommodate. So what I've learned to do is go to their website and just highlight however they spell their name and copy and paste it. If they had done that with Realtek and Intel and the other manufacturers in here, they would have never had this problem. Not that it's a real problem, but it can hinder your search optimization. When somebody's looking for an Intel computer, they're probably going to spell it without the dash, and that may be a result of why this does not show up higher up in the search listing. You understand what I'm getting at? It's not in their advantage to misspell it. It's part of search engine optimization if you want to be seen and you want to be higher up in the search to get all the words correct. So it's not just a simple matter of OCD. In many cases, when you use a company's products, they require you to use their name specifically. They'll have like a trademarked R after it. So Intel and AMD, I don't think AMD wants it all lowercase. I don't think they want it in any other color than red. I don't know. And they certainly don't want it spelled DMA or MAD. What kind of processor you got there? You got one of those Intels? No, I got an MAD. Oh, how many SUB ports does that have? I don't know. It's got one of those VMNMEs in it, though. Oh, right on. Hey, why don't we go hit the TMA and get some cash out of the machine? And I'll drive my 6x6. It's 6 on the floor. It's great. Maybe later we could watch the VT and the tube views. We've all become Yoda. Thomas MacT says, yeah, they could add letters after H2. They could have H2A, H2B, H2C. Probably think you're getting a visa. But these are all marketing decisions. There's no right or wrong, right? Whatever a company wants to do. Also, the marketing techniques used in other countries will vary. So, you know, what works in one country may not be matching the culture of another country. And if you don't know that, you're not optimally marketing in that area, in that region. But that's the marketing people's job. They're supposed to know this. Ron Toomey says, Carey, there's a security update, KB5074109, that fails to install. Have you experienced this before? No, I got all my updates. All my clients got their updates. This is the first I've heard, but let me Google it. KB5074109. KB5074109. fails to install. Well, let's see if anybody else is having that problem. Recently bought a Windows 11 home key, did a clean install. Since downloading, I've run into a lot of issues like automatic repair loops. I fixed this by re-downloading the Windows 11 through an ISO file. Startup issues seem to have gone now. I don't know where he sourced his ISO file to begin with. Oh, unless he, oh, the previous owner had a pirated Windows 10. I see. Searched and found I had corrupt Windows files. And of course, he only wants to play games. All the processing power ever seen in the history of humankind that could solve so many problems and you could use to make a difference in the world, and he just wants to play games with it. Okay, I guess that's a thing you can do. Wait for Windows update to fix the well, that's true. Any particular way to fix the UL automation DLL failed? So yeah, I'd have to know what your error message is. So when you get the failure, there should be a button you can click for more information. If you can take a screenshot of that and email it to us. Are you getting a timeout? Microsoft has acknowledged that it can fail to install on certain Windows 11 25H2 systems due to a servicing stack inconsistency. The update session times out because the component store located in Windows /WinSXS cannot reconcile the patch payload with existing binary files. This is why other updates install fine, but this one consistently fails. So the first step is to verify the servicing stack by running this command at a command prompt, and then run this command afterwards. If DSM reports corruption, it will attempt to repair. Okay, so there's an answer right there that you should try. I'd recommend you give that a shot, and if you still run into any problems or if it fixes it, let us know, which leads me to telling you how to reach us. So let me come back here to camera 1, and I'll put the email address right up here on the screen. There you go. So reach out to us, especially with problems like that where it might require a little bit more digging and experimentation. First I've heard of it, but clearly you're not alone. And let us know how you progress, if you still need help or if it resolves the problem. So if anybody else asks, we can give them a more definitive answer. We could say, oh, well, we've already seen this before. Here's what fixed it. So it's nice to hear back from people if they find that the solution works, or if the solution doesn't work, then we don't recommend that solution necessarily anymore. So yeah, please do email us. And if you have any questions or any concerns about what we've looked at today, any particular issues or questions you have on your own computer, not on a friend's computer, but your friend can email us. We need to talk to the owner of the computer, not to their friends. In most cases, it's just a lot more efficient to cut out a middleman and get right to the heart of it. And we love hearing from you guys, so feel free to drop us an email. You'll typically get a response from us within 24 hours, often within hours. If we don't hear back from us, we likely never got your email. Or when you sent us an email, you don't have an appropriate reply to address that works. We've seen people email us and they did not fill in the reply address correctly, and we have no way to tell them. So double check the spelling on your own email address. Double check the spelling of the email you're sending to before you hit the send button. And you'll likely get a response a lot sooner, if at all, when it's impossible to respond to some people. In fact, that would mean nobody can respond to any email you send. And I don't know how else to tell them. So I have to use this forum and hope they're watching. With that, thank you as always to our friends at VIP-URCDKEYs. for continuing to offer this discount to our viewers. Thank you to all of the viewers, especially our members who make these videos possible. And thank you to KAMRUI for sending us this unit for review. I will run the disk mark test to get our performance numbers, and I will run Cinebench R23 on this and get the max temperatures and the scores. And on Sunday, I will do a quick update on this. Might even do it tomorrow, just a short video update, because there's not much left to review after that. And I'll finish doing the Windows updates. The Windows 11 Optimizer is available for sale. I'm going to run the Optimizer, which will also back up the drivers automatically. You just hit the backup drivers button. And all it's doing is it's typing that command in for you. It's just going to do it more consistently. It's going to make the drivers folder. It's going to back those drivers up. And then it's up to you if you want to copy them off somewhere. But that's just one of the 30 some odd things the Optimizer does. And the links for the Optimizer are in the video notes below this video. We'll also make sure that I correct any links that point to the correct model. So by the time you're watching this, that should all be fixed. And then Sunday, you know, let me reach out to Mitch. We have a computer that needs to be built. And I don't know if Mitch has any plans on Sunday. So I'll reach out and see if he's available. And if so, then we'll welcome him back and put him to work. And I hope you'll join us then. So thank you guys for hanging out with us today. Thanks to Mara for all the hard work that she does, not only getting all those video notes straight, but also creating those thumbnails from scratch, plus the titling. And she's the one that pretty much goes through all the emails, unless they require my attention. Sometimes they do, and she just makes sure that she gets those over to me so I can respond to them. And then, anyway, that's most of the questions people ask, Mara can answer just fine. And in most cases, she answers them better than I do. So I'll stick to what I do best. Let her do what she does best. And we have very little overlap. It makes us very efficient. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me for today. And I want to thank, of course, Mark Gaines and Buster for their Amazon gift cards. And a shout out to the contributions that we received during today's show. Let me shout the thank you out once again to Greg Casabona, and thank you to Gregory Howard for renewing his membership. And thank you to everybody in green for being members here. I can't tell you how much that means to me. Everybody else, we appreciate you guys hanging out and being kind as part of this community, whether you're a member or not. You're welcome here as a kind, like-minded person. We love having you here. You don't have to be a member to be appreciated, but without the members, this video wouldn't exist. That's all I'm trying to say. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that we'll see you again on Sunday, live at 1 o'clock, as always. That's Phoenix time, and that's 12 p.m. Pacific currently, 3 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, bye for now.